The West Virginia Mountaineers have pulled off one of the most baffling hires of 2024, bringing Zac Alley from Oklahoma to West Virginia. Sooner Nation not taking that well, and I've got somebody on here to be the voice of Oklahoma Sooner fans. That's up here on next on Locked On West Virginia. Stick around.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia with an Oklahoma crossover. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you all for being so supportive. Can't thank you enough for that. This episode is going to be brought to you by FanDuel, guys. They're doing a big at FanDuel right now. If you didn't know that, guys, the playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel right now because new customers can finish the season strong with 250 bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. But you got to go to FanDuel to get started just for that. Guys, we've got a special guest, somebody that is basically a co-worker of mine at Locked On Sooners, somebody that is doing a big over there right now, putting up huge numbers on that site over there on Locked On Sooners. Would be happy for you guys to go support him after this. But we're talking about none other than Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners. What's up, man?
How's it going, sir? Thanks for having me.
Doing well. Unfair Sports is the handle on X. So, yeah, man, I think, this was rumored, obviously, for the last few weeks leading into this. But nobody really on the Oklahoma side gave it a whole bunch of credence that I saw. There was a Tom Green tweet that it was suddenly deleted. Some things like that people had kind of held on to, hoping this would happen. But did you really believe this was actually going to happen leading up to this?
No, and also within the camp at Oklahoma, they didn't see this coming at all. This was a complete blindside. Based upon what I've been told, the back conversations, they were negotiating a new contract and everything. And supposedly, I've been told there was a verbal agreement. And so for Oklahoma, this was not something that was expected. But at the same time, it's not something that should have been disregarded. Like when I talked about it on my channel, my own personal channel, Unfair Sports, I mentioned that I didn't expect Zac to leave. But at the same time, I would not be too surprised if he took the opportunity to help build something new with his former coach, Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, and look, he seems to be a relationships guy. Obviously, this thing with Venables, I don't know where it stands now after this, but leading up to this, he had spoken to him as a second father. He's also spoken to Richrod like that. It seems like he gravitates towards guys like this, at least at this stage in his career, guys that are what would be considered knowledgeable in their profession. Richrod, I would consider a program builder, and obviously there's a lot to be excited about for the future of West Virginia with what everything they're investing into the program. But didn't see us pulling an SEC guy from Oklahoma, one of the blue bloods in all of college football. We're not afraid to admit it's a step down, right? Generally speaking, it's not a lateral move, but there are a couple key factors here, Jay, that kind of swing things in our favor, right? He doesn't have to run the 4-2-5 anymore, right? He gets to run his own thing, which is probably going to be an odd front mixed with some even stuff. He obviously got more money. He probably gets more control, and it's with somebody he knows that's building something and maybe not perceived anyway to be on the back end of something here like Venables could be.
Yeah, no, and that's fair to say. I hate to say that it's a step down because I feel like it's disrespectful to West Virginia because I've always appreciated West Virginia, even what Richrod did there in his first stint. Now, I think it's kind of odd that he's making a return, especially how ugly of a breakup it was. I remember the negotiations for the buyout. I was a part of watching a lot of that. I mean, heck, one of my favorite teams to play on NCAA 2000 and back in those days was playing with Steve Slayton as well as Paul White. Right, I was a big Mountaineer fan in the game because that triple option was amazing. But it was not. It can be considered a step down for some, but it's an elevated role. He got the title of assistant head coach. He's gonna get more opportunity. And some of the people I've talked to here on the Oklahoma side, and we'll dive more into it, especially on Locked On Sooners. But one thing that came to consideration for me is that no matter what, even though Alley runs a similar offense as Brent Venables, odd fronts as well as even, mixes things up. He ran a lot of 3-3-5 this year. No matter how successful he's going to be, a lot of people is going to still link it to Brent Venables, mainly because Venables and what he did at Clemson. Now, granted, Alley was with him 7 years at Clemson, so that's where most of the shot comes from. Him saying he's going to be here, he's looking forward to next season in the press conference. But you always get, coach speak. But Zac Alley truly is, as mentioned here in the comments, he is a mini Brent Venables, right? He sounds like him. If you close your eyes and just listen to him talk, you think he's the one speaking. Got a little bit of raspiness to his voice, but the expectation was that, because typically defensive coaches don't get head coaching opportunities very fast. It usually takes some years. I think Dan Lanning is probably the exception to the rule. Kirby Smart was underneath, Nick Saban for like 9 years before he even got the chance. But at the same time, he also waited for the job that he truly wanted, which was going back home. So for us, the big thought was he's going to stick around for a while, and then he's going to take his time and pick and choose and be able to choose the job he wants, because the defense was ascending with him when he joined this past season.
No doubt about it. I mean, you guys jumped 30, 40 categories in so many key areas. Was it all sunshine and rainbows? No. But you guys had basically no offense, right? This year, It was really a struggle, and that defense kept you in a lot of games. And already you've lost some I've seen a linebacker, I've seen another guy. You're already starting to lose a few key pieces for the future, right? How many is it?
So for as far as like defense goes, only one is today has been Lewis Carter.
Right.
But he was also in the 2 deep more. He wasn't one that was actually going to start, but he was going to play significant minutes. He was one that Brent Venables raved about out of Florida. And to be honest, he was flirting with hitting the portal last year. He's from Tampa. Rumor has it he was a little homesick. And I guess with Alley leaving, it kind of was, the straw that broke the camel's back for him to go ahead and go home. And hey, to me, I am okay with guys making that trip back home and doing that. But the good thing for us is the linebacker room is still pretty deep. We'll probably pick up a few more in the portal just to have some additional depth. But we've got about 5 dudes that we expected to play no matter what. And Lewis Carter was the 6th guy that was going to definitely jump into that rotation. But for the biggest thing for us is we've seen a lot of changes when it comes to the offensive side. As you mentioned, injury bug kicked our butt. We lost 6 wide receivers throughout the entire season, 5 of them for the entire year. You go through 11 different offensive line configurations in 12 games. In 13 games, because we actually used the same configuration from the last game, luckily. Dealing with that many injuries, nobody's going to be successful. But you said it right, Paul.
Replace Dylan Gabriel.
Right. Well, it's not really Dylan Gabriel was the replacement. The problem was you have a young quarterback that's throwing to young wide receivers. You can't have a bunch of true freshmen and think you're going to see success. But that was and as you pointed out, our defense is what kept us in the most games. When you go look at the numbers, the defense was holding everybody back, but the offense was doing the complete opposite. They were giving the ball up on a regular basis. So for Oklahoma, the bigger thing is that we brought in a new offensive coordinator, which we needed. We brought in the number 1 quarterback out of the portal, who's accounted for 3,900 yards by himself. He'll probably come in and be very much dangerous here in the SEC. So we're not concerned as much there. A competent offense would have led us to 9 wins. A non-competent offense led us to 6. So to me, I'm not too concerned about next season. Zac Alley was a huge component of it because he related well with the players. And we'll talk about that in the next segment. But for Oklahoma, we all know that this was still Brent Venables' defense, and the staff has really rallied around him. So it's now just a bump in the road that we have to address today.
It's Oklahoma. You guys are going to be fine, man. I can't believe that, As we climb towards almost 450 people in here, just remember that Jay is at Unfair Sports. He has his own channel, and he's also Locked On Sooners. So if you're into that and you want to keep track with them as they moved into the SEC, make sure you go over there and check them out, guys. Up next on Locked On West Virginia and Locked On Oklahoma, we're kind of doing a crossover, but it's on my channel. I don't know exactly what we're doing here. I don't think we talked about if you were going to put it up on your channel or not. But it's whatever you want to do. But we'll talk about that afterwards. So I guess this is technically a crossover. Up next, guys, we're going to talk about how good is Zac Alley. What is he good at? Is he an X's and O's guy? Does he develop talent? Does he call games well? What does Jay think about that, guys? And could there be players following behind him to West Virginia? We'll ask that too. Stick around for that, guys. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Guys, when it comes to FanDuel right now, they're doing a huge promotion at the end of the year. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the dub. And I love what the betting on the players, which scores touchdowns, how many points they will score. It's pretty thrilling, at least to me. So not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. And we are back here with Locked On Sooners and Unfair Sports' Jay Smith. So we kind of talked about that in the first segment as far as what happened, how we've gotten here. Before we jump into how good of a coach Zac Alley is, I'm going to read something from Mike Ostie here, where he talks about the quotes from either. I guess there has been the West Virginia University has released some stuff that each guy has said. This is Zac Alley on joining Richrod at West Virginia. I'm excited to join Coach Rodriguez and the West Virginia University football program. I have tremendous respect for Coach Rod, as I've seen how he develops players and builds a program, and I look forward to working with the players. Got to hit the button here. Working with the players and doing my part to help West Virginia be one of the top programs in the Big 12 Conference and the nation. Nothing groundbreaking there at all. And then Rich Rodriguez says, Zac is one of the top young defensive coordinators in the country and has proven his ability to lead and be an innovator at different stops during his career. I've worked with him several seasons, and he constantly impresses me with his ability to blend schemes with his personnel and develop winning results. I look forward for him to join us, this staff, and make an immediate impact for us. Jay, I like how Rich Rod worded that, able to blend schemes with personnel. Is that what you saw in his time at Oklahoma?
Yeah, he did a really good job of that. And the unfortunate piece for him is he didn't really get to do the full, the full, I guess, injection of doing, having the two systems be able to work together because the offense was just so incompetent, unfortunately. And so, no, he's really good at that. He's very good at relating with the players. That was one thing that a lot of players said when he first got there. They like that they remind him of Brent Venables because luckily for us, that the recruits that came in were all Brent Venables recruits. Unfortunately, Zac Alley hadn't brought in anybody yet in the last recruiting trail. So his recruiting capabilities are now, we need to see what that's going to look like. But
you're going to have to be good at West Virginia.
Yeah, he's going to have to bring in
an easy place to recruit to.
Right, but the good thing too also is he still has a lot of relationship with the Jacksonville State kids, so there's a good chance that he probably going to get a few of them to follow up to West Virginia and be able to work with them again, even though he was gone for nice 1 year. Yeah, and a lot of them did hit the portal, so that's a good thing, especially when Rich Rod went ahead and made the leave. So he can get on that and start recruiting those guys back up, and just bring back some of the players. Kind of do similar to what Kurt Signetti did over there at Indiana. He basically brought everybody from James Madison, and they actually did very well. So
they did.
But he's really good at meshing his defense to work with the offense. The biggest thing is going to be how is Coach Rich Rod's offense going to work with the type of defense that he's going to have. Because we know in the Big 12, the big thing, it's all about getting those offenses out there. If Zac Alley can get the right players in there at West Virginia to slow down some of the high-octane offenses in the Big 12, and Rich Rod can kill some clock, which is kind of the opposite of what it was back in the day. He kills more clock. There's a good chance that there's to be some success there.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that these two have worked together before and been successful. That's something at least to look at and say, hey, look, they were together two different stops. Mm-hmm. They obviously know what the other likes. So I think that's going to be important, obviously. And And you mentioned recruiting. What kind of recruiter is Zac Alley? Is he a pretty good recruiter?
I can't tell you. He didn't land anybody in the linebacker spot that he was going after this past year. So we haven't actually got the chance to see it. So we were actually waiting to see what it looked like here in the transfer portal with linebackers because, again, all the linebackers we brought in were all Brent Venables and, honestly, Ted Roof guys that were brought in, and they've been in for a few years. And so we had one recruit, Marcus James, that technically plays linebacker that came in, but he actually committed a year ago. So he committed actually when Xavier Robinson, the freshman running back we got, he committed a year ago. And so we have just been watching him this past season because we already knew he was coming. And so he's signed, he's in, but we didn't land any other linebackers from the class that we were going after. So we know Alley was going after some folks and he was putting in the work. And some players liked his youth. That was something that a few players had mentioned in their report and conversation at the interviews during their recruiting process. They enjoyed, Zac Alley being young, he's relatable, blah, blah, blah. But we haven't got a chance to see what he actually looks like as a recruiter. So looks like you guys get to enjoy that, and we'll find out if he's able to bring a lot of talent there to West Virginia.
Yeah, and the players I've spoken to so far that West Virginia has been in contact with in the portal have said, one of the things they're trying to leverage here is obviously you're talking about a guy that has that SEC tag. You can actually say that, like this is a guy that's coached in the SEC. This is a guy that was pretty successful in the SEC. And then you can point to all the Jacksonville State secondary guys they had last year, which was one of the best secondaries in all college football. And then what they were able to do at Oklahoma this year on defense and say, look, this is a guy that can develop you. And so they're definitely leveraging it for what it's worth and what they can. But at the end of the day, he got a lot for this, man. He was able to assistant head coach, so like you and I talked on the phone and kind of conjecturing, like, I wonder if he's got this head coach and waiting title on him. It hasn't been public yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it there, Jay. Would you?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be either. I think it was somebody that tweeted out the voice of Morgantown or something like that, that Twitter account. He posted out there and said that a head coach in waiting was going to be there for Zac Alley. And to be honest, if that's something he wants to pursue, that's awesome. I've never been fond of those titles because I can still think of like 7 or 8 dudes that had them, and they are at like 4 different schools since then. It's one of those titles that
we had one, Dana Holgerson,
right? And the big problem you run into is that depending on how bad things go for the former head coach that you're in waiting behind, sometimes the program's like, now we need a full clean slate. So I don't know
Nobody
how
has
that
to live up to it, right?
Right, and that's the hard part. And if your side is very successful and the other side isn't, and you lose games, then sure, maybe you'll see a situation where the school's like, all right, we want to go ahead and give you a shot and see if you can do it. And typically it only works if the head coach is able to last out the time that he's going to retire. And I don't know about you, but I don't think Richrod is retiring anytime soon.
He's only 61.
He's 61. He's got at least 10 years in the system.
Yeah.
So,
and listen, that's what they told us. His fire still burns really, really hot. It really does.
Exactly. So that's where the question comes in of, does that head coaching title actually help? Or is that going to even mean anything?
Probably it gives you an excuse to give him more money, I guess.
Yeah, that is the big thing. I think that's more so a pay bump.
You can justify it to the fans or whoever may be questioning it, like, well, look, he's also got this assistant responsibility, so I guess that probably makes sense there. Guys, thank you for supporting the channel. As we cross over into 500 on, we've got the combination of X and YouTube. We're right there at about 500, so just keep on pushing that. Hit that subscribe button, guys. Like the video. Don't forget to leave a comment after the fact or if you're watching right now. And then make sure you go check out Locked On Sooners, like I've been saying throughout the video, and at Unfair Sports with Jay, man. He does an excellent job over there. So I think up next what I want to talk about, Jay, is one thing that we have alluded to that you haven't answered quite yet. So I think we'll talk about some Oklahoma players, just if there are any that might be possible. So stick around for that, guys. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by Rocket Money, guys. Guys, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice. Well, it's definitely happened to me because I had a few that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower spending your bills so that you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and saved over 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it several times to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've used to been able to save a ton as a result. Play their goals feature, guys, is something that's really interesting too, where you're automatically able to set aside money for the future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right, and I am back here with Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners and at Unfair Sports. Okay, so I think this is the big question of the segment, and obviously, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Somebody that knows the players, somebody that talks to the players. I wouldn't want to believe anybody was going right. That's just how I would feel. But I would probably have an idea of anybody that might, and I guess that's kind of where I'm at with you. Is there anybody, like you said, the one guy, that Carter, I think his name was,
had Lewis
kind
Carter.
of used this as an excuse to get up through. Is there anybody else you could see, either from being angry or just as an excuse, or possibly somebody that's close to Zac Alley that may want to join him in Morgantown?
I'm gonna be honest, no. Because all the recruits that came in were recruited by Brent Venables. So it's by him and the staff that's currently there. So unless someone that just really latched on to him and to be their coach, I don't see anybody following him. And it's nothing against West Virginia. It's just a lot of these dudes came to Oklahoma to play for Brent Venables. And so that's probably also a good reason why Alley may, wanted to move on, understanding that a lot of the loyalty from these guys is Venables. And that's one thing, the way that he recruits. And a lot of people, some fans don't like it. Some fans don't understand it, but it's something I believe that you all would understand more than anything, is that if you can get recruits that are tied to a particular coach, because if you see success, what's going to happen? Your coach is going to get poached. People's going to come after them. And so you want to get players that are loyal to the coach there that's going to be sticking around more so than a position coach. And that's kind of how Brent Venables recruits. But the Lewis Carter piece, like I said, he had been flirting with it for like the last 2 years. I think actually spring portal, he was looking at it initially, and now he's actually here this past spring, actually, and now he's actually here in the fall. I see him heading back to Florida. Probably UCF is most likely where he's going to end up, probably one of those places. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't follow Zac Alley. Zac Alley gave him some snaps in the bowl game, gave him about 30, which is his first time really getting the extended play this season. And so if he believes there's a chance for him to play immediately, totally could see him going, but I don't think, the bowl game ended on Friday, so it makes sense that guys are going to start, the final set of guys would hit the portal today, since today's the last day to enter.
Correct. Right. So, yeah, and I agree with you. Obviously, things still have to play out. I'm sure any defensive player that, for whatever reason, does hit the portal, West Virginia fans are going to speculate. That's just how it works. So, and we'll continue to monitor that. It's okay. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. We'll continue to monitor it. One thing I wanted to ask you about, too, is obviously, look at Zach Sanchez. There's been a lot of people who have been really upset over this move, and you and I were talking about it off camera. A lot of people would see this as is this underhanded? Is that a word you would use for it, or a liar? Like, what do you like? How harsh do you think this is?
The harshness. I've been told some things or whatnot, stuff that shouldn't probably be disclosed like that, but to me, if the rumors which have been going around X is true, that he told the players that he'll see them, he'll be here for a few years and decide to renege against that. I mean, that's how coaching worked in college football since the day of time. Coaches leave based
Right.
upon money. They'll sell everybody. I'm not going anywhere, but his agent is in the background doing all the negotiations with both sides. So he's either working his way to get more money or looking at the opportunity to leave. And I'm gonna be honest, I think Oklahoma could have matched the money, no problem, but it feels like he probably wanted the opportunity for more autonomy. You know, we talked about that in the first segment. Sometimes a coach want to be able to say that they're the one that did it, and honestly, that's what Zac Alley was at Jacksonville State. He was that dude. He was the one doing it, and Richrod left him alone, especially there at Louisiana Monroe as well as Jacksonville State, gave him the opportunity to, you know, to cut his teeth somewhere. And now this opportunity here, West Virginia, to be able to do this in the Big 12. If he's able to put together a really good defense in the Big 12, which has been a challenge for everybody in the Big 12 because of the type of offenses that have run through there over the last, 20 years, if he's able to produce something there, then that's going to put him at the top of the list of people trying to look for him as a head coach somewhere. And, even with the head coaching and waiting title, head coaching jobs offered up, he's probably going to take it. So I do sense that he has an opportunity to, do something special for you all and do something different. We just have to see what it looks like. I mean, honestly, the biggest one is answering the questions in the recruiting trail and see what that looks like.
What about any coaches? Do you think any coaches at all? I mean, I know you said everybody pretty much committed to Venables there. Is there anybody that's there with Zac Alley that came with it because of Zac Alley?
No, nobody. Okay. Everybody there. Zac Alley was the only new person on the defensive side of the ball that came in.
So they'll probably go a different route for coaches too. I was just curious because obviously he's got to fill out his staff.
Yep.
William Green from Jackson State has come in. We know Brandon Napoleon, who is at Jack State, was his safeties coach in the past. I'm really hoping he comes because I'm close to his dad. So, always want to have that in. But at the end of the day, as long as we get the best, that's all I really care about. Some people still think we could get the defensive coordinator from Louisiana Tech, Jeremiah Johnson, to come in with Zac Alley. That would be two defensive coordinators that are really highly regarded, possibly, because they can easily double or triple his salary and be a positional coach. I don't know how often that happens. Guys come up from like the G5 to be a positional coach, but for way more money. But that's out there. That could happen.
Very common.
Yeah. So I think it's, that's a possibility. And then obviously, and he can also be a kind of a backup plan if Zac Alley, who obviously jumps jobs quite a bit, maybe he jumps again. You never know. So I think it's, you got to have a backup plan there. But I want to thank you for coming on, man. It was short notice. It's funny. I'd been trying to, I sent a message out to a group chat I'm in a few days ago to everybody in Locked On, like, hey, somebody give me but everybody's gone for the holidays, and then nobody answered. I was trying to get your stuff because I couldn't access the calendar to find your name or anything for like a few days. So I really appreciate you for coming on short notice, man. I really do. Can you tell everybody while we're in here, anything else you want to promote as far as what you're into?
Yeah. Come check us out. Locked On Sooners. We talk all Oklahoma ball, of course. And you can check out my channel, Unfair Sports, here on YouTube. I talk a lot of OU football as well as SEC ball. And we're going to be growing a lot more in that. And so, if you like talking just football, man, I try to go more football than being dramatic. So that's always the one plus a lot of people like about my channel is I'm not here to try to stir too many pots. Not saying that here, more so saying a lot of channels out there that's less about football, more about the drama behind it. I want to talk ball. Let's talk X's and O's and just talk about players and what's available. So check us out. We appreciate you, man. Thank you, Paul, for having me. I know a lot of people were wondering about Zac Alley, and yes, you're right. A lot of Sooner fans are upset. They are because it was a blindside. But hey, man, I hope for success out there for you all. Go do some things in the Big 12 and make magic happen.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys. And make sure you find Jay on the Unfair Sports and anywhere else that you can watch your college football, whether it's podcasting, whether that's YouTube, whether that's on X, wherever you find it. And thank you for supporting us here again. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, guys. For your second listen, if you could do me a favor and check out Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll leads the conversation in college football around the Big 12, and he pulls no punches, guys, when it comes to covering the Big 12. You can find him on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Do it there. Do it now. Guys, thanks for joining us. Like I said, Zac Alley is a Mountaineer. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be fun covering this over the next couple of months. Thanks to Jay Smith from Unfair Sports and Locked On Sooners for coming on. We'll see you guys on the next one. This episode is over, and we are out of here.